It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over to Joe's today and do yourself right with a little indoor karting at an incredibly cheap price. I think you can usually get about 16 laps in on those karts, and it's a great time. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, 16 laps isn't much, go to Joe's Karting and let's talk after you race 16 laps in those karts. Because I'm thinking about 8 or 10 laps in, you'll be thinking, God, am I done yet? This is so tiring.
It can be a little bit of an endurance adventure, and
get an idea what these guys are going to be racing this afternoon at Charlotte for the Roval, as you'll be turning left and right and braking and cutting through the corners and trying to find your marks. These guys are going to be doing the same thing. And if you're new to Joe's Karting, you're going to know exactly what these guys are going through because they're pretty new to it too.
To this track, anyway.
Yeah, this style. Yep.
Another thing you can do is go to Joe's webpage or their Facebook page. They do have their Racing with the Stars event coming up here in roughly about 6 weeks. I think it's early November.
Yeah, usually it is. It's a great cause benefiting Children's Hospital here in Omaha. They raise money and they buy a bunch of presents and then they wrap them and give them to the kids over the holidays for the kids that aren't able to go home and celebrate the holidays with their families. They get a bunch of drivers that go to the hospital with them and donate, and then
they go in the driver suits, so the kids really get a kick out of it, and you can even make donations if you want to just drop something by over there. They take racing T-shirts. I mean, anything and everything. They take. I don't remember what is it in the NICU over there. 40 beds, I think.
I couldn't tell you.
It's not a whole lot, but they take beanies for the NICU and blankets and that type of stuff. And then the older kids, the racing T-shirts, and I guess the decals are a big hit. If you got racing decals, they love those. Any type of little die-cast 1/64th cars, anything like that. Really
great event. And you can find out more at joeskarting.com or search Holiday Horsepower Drive, and we'll share some events on our Facebook page. We got a big show lined up for you today. We will set the playoff picture as we go into elimination race number 1 for round number 1 of the 2018 playoffs. In case you're new to this, we do 3 races, we eliminate 4 drivers. We do 3 races, we eliminate 4 drivers, and then we do that until we get to Homestead. We have 4 final drivers where it doesn't matter the amount of playoff points they have, doesn't matter the amount of stage wins, doesn't matter anything. You got to win the race because the guy in second or third or fourth that could be going for that championship could win it just as easily.
Well, don't have to win, just the highest placing finisher of those 4 cars.
You got to win. The champion
has won every year. That he has.
You got to win. Now, I know you're saying you don't have to win, but I'm saying to be safe, you better win that race. But big show lined up for you today. Like I said, we'll set the playoff picture. Then the Top Gun Gunnar Pike, driver of the number 25 Sport Mod throughout the area, will join us in turn number 2. And then our good old buddy Joel Wilgers. They got another little thing they're scheming together to have us have a good time in the Midwest with
actually really, 2 events.
Yeah, and you'll want to make sure and listen in turn number 3 for that. And then turn number 4 will get you set for today's race at the Roval, which, by the way, it's going to sound a lot like this.
No
wreck.
History at that track.
Don't wreck. That's gonna be our, because we have no idea. The drivers have a little bit of an idea because they've been testing there a little bit. I think I've got a pretty good idea of what I can expect out of some of these drivers, and we're going to talk about that coming up in turn number 1. I want to talk a little bit about the playoff picture. We'll get you set for that, and then if we have some time in turn number 1, we will talk about some of the news that has happened. Now, I want to keep this in mind. Dirk and I, because of some scheduling and some interview opportunities, we had to interview on Tuesday. So, silly season, there's going to be some big breaking news that's going to happen Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, or Saturday. The best place to find that out, and if you haven't been on social media and seen it yet, head over to our Facebook page. We'll get you up to date there.
We keep track of it as best we can.
Here's the playoff picture. Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski are locked into the next round because they have won their races. They won. Kyle Busch won at Las Vegas, and Brad Keselowski won last Saturday night at Richmond.
Well,
Martin Truex Jr. then got locked in on points, and Kevin Harvick is essentially locked in because all he's got to do is he's just got to start the race, and then he's in. With that 1 point that he will gain for finishing 37, 38, 39th, or however many cars are entered, that 1 point will carry him over into the playoffs. So Kevin Harvick, top 4, those guys are already locked in. Then you got Joey Logano, that is 25 points to the good. Eric Almirola, that is 23 points to the good. And Kyle Larson, that is 17 points to the good. I'm going to throw Kurt Busch in there in 8th place, 15 points to the good. I think these guys, when they walk into Charlotte today, their rule is no mistakes. I'm not going to push that corner. I'm not going to push the tires. I'm not going to really do much. And if we have to have a 15-second pit stop, I would be okay with that rather than a lug nut falling off the car falling off the jack and have a massive mistake. If these guys can play to protect, then they can move on to the next round. Well, yeah, I mean, you can even keep adding some more guys in there, but Elliott and Dillon are both 10 points to the good.
Elliott and Dillon, I believe Elliott's going to go for a win, especially after having won at Watkins Glen. He's proved he can get around a road course.
And let me just tell you, when I say these guys are going to relax, if they're sitting in 5th, they're not going to push hard for that win. They're going to settle for 5th. This is basically going to be like Jimmy Johnson winning all of his championships when he went to Homestead so many years, and all he had to do was finish 20th or better. And so he'd run 12th, 13th, or 14th and not push the car, not push the limits. He'd just take it easy and win himself a championship. That's what these guys have got to do. They've just got to take care of their equipment and not make mistakes. Now, when you get a little bit farther back, I think Chase Elliott and Austin Dillon are going to be paying a lot of attention to what happens with Bowman and Blaney, because if those guys are running up front and they can pass them, and then you've got guys like Boyer and Johnson, Jones, and Hamlin. Well, let's back up a little bit. Boyer and Johnson still have a chance to get in based on points alone because they're only 4 and 6 points behind, respectively.
And both have won at road courses, so
right.
They're gonna race.
When you're talking about Chase Elliott and Austin Dillon, I think these guys are going to be paying attention to the scenario that's unfolding. If it's sitting favorable in their position, then they're not going to push too hard, and this is going to be a calm race for them. Bowman and Blaney, though, they have got to be a little bit more up on the wheel because they could easily be overtaken by 13th and 14th, Boyer and Johnson. So those 4 guys are definitely going to be paying attention to where each other is respectively. And if you see somebody like Boyer, Johnson, Jones, or Hamlin that's up front and possibly going to win this thing, then that's going to start to mix things up for Blaney and Bowman, who would be one of the first drivers out if a new driver won.
So with this race, qualifying is going to be very important because just right off the bat, if you've got, let's just say Boyer and Johnson qualifying in the top 5 and you've got, Blaney and Bowman qualified in 25th, then they got a whole lot of work cut out for them.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
Yep.
And again, with this race never having been run before, they can't work this race backwards. They can't say, well, we can pit with 20 laps to go and with 40 laps to go. They can't do that because they don't have any history on this race. They don't know what's going to happen. And if they sit back and look that it maybe it lines up with Watkins Glen or with Sonoma or something like that, they can kind of look at some notes from there and look at some history and try and work out a strategy that way. But it's going to be rather interesting.
And kind of going back to it a little bit, I think 10th place on up, those guys are going to be kind of relaxed. But when you've got 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th all within 10 points of each other, 10, 12 points with each other, that's where it's really going to start to get mixed up. And I think that's where the action's going to be. And then you've got guys in 15th and 16th, which is Eric Jones and Denny Hamlin. There's a lot. I've been listening to a lot of commentators this week saying those guys don't have to win to get in. I think if I'm Eric Jones and Denny Hamlin, I got to win to get in. 21 points in one race is a lot of points to make up.
Well, you got to qualify up front, but with stage points, it's not that many points to make up. It's not like it used to be.
Well, but these guys are back there for a reason.
Yeah, but they're going to have to run. They're going to have to qualify good, and they're going to have to run up front, and they're going to have to get stage points. Those are going to be very important for them, which is going to dictate their strategy for the race. They're not going to be able to, if it's like Watkins Glen where the guys come in with 3 laps to go in the first segment and all do their pit stop, so they start the second segment up front, that's not going to happen here. Those guys are going to have to stay up front and get those segment points in the first stage and then drive like crazy to try and get them in the second.
Yeah.
And again, we don't know how the race is going to break down.
It's great for the fans because it's not going to be this slow and steady, get to the end of the race and then finish well. They got to perform the entire race. They can't take it easy, feel out their car. They got to have a great car off the truck. They got to practice great. They got to qualify great, and they have to run great all day long. And that's what I love about the stage system is that it keeps drivers up on the wheel. They're required because it can kill you in points if you have to start in the back and make your way to the front because you're going to miss out on stage 1 points. and you're not going to get very many in Stage 2 if you have a great car, and it really hurts you.
Well, and again, some of these guys don't have to have great point stays.
We're talking about Jones and Hamlin.
Yeah, Jones
absolutely.
and Hamlin. I mean, even Boyer and Johnson. These guys have got to get something done, and they've got to race all day.
It'll be interesting to see what happens today. I can't wait to watch it on NBC at noon with green flag waving at 1 o'clock. So make sure you tune into this.
Yeah, and I mean, this race, this is a big step for NASCAR. This is the first year that they have changed this playoff system. I mean, this group of races, outside of the Kansas and Talladega switch a couple of years ago, they've never changed any of this up.
Yeah.
So this is a big step for them, and I want to give them kudos for making these adjustments and trying to appease the fans. Mm-hmm. And I just hope this is a fantastic race that comes up. And I hope that maybe the guy that's in 14th in points right now going in maybe makes it into the 12. And maybe one of the guys in 5th or 6th, has an issue early and drops out. Of course, it'll probably be the guy that I pick for the race in the Fantasy League.
Coming up in turn number 4, I want to break down some of the news stories that have happened. We've had some more silly season developments, some more drivers that are rumored to be locked into their rides. So we'll talk about that in turn number 4. And don't forget, Gunnar Pike coming up in turn number 2, and and we'll talk with Joe Wilgers in turn number 3. Before we end turn number 1, though, we've got tickets to give away to the Monster Jam race at Council Bluffs at the Mid-America Center for the October 12th, 13th, and 14th. So answer this simple question. Since Gunnar Pike's coming up next, what car number does Gunnar Pike run? Don't worry about the series. Don't worry about what class he runs. What car number does Gunnar Pike run around the area?
And if you don't know right now, listen to the interview.
First person to call in at 402-573-0590, 402-573-0590. First person to call in with the correct answer will win themselves a family 4-pack of tickets to go to Monster Jam. You get to pick the day, October 12th, 13th, or 14th at the Mid-America Center in Council Bluffs. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with Top Gun, Gunnar Pike, just around the corner on the front stretch.
The 2018 season at I-80 Speedway is about to come to an end, but not before one final weekend of racing. The Speedway Motors Cornhusker Classic on October 12th and 13th features the Midwest's best mods, sport mods, stock cars, bragging rights, late models, hobby stocks, and compacts. Adult tickets start at $10 on Friday and $15 on Saturday. Kids 6 to 12 get in for $5 both days, and kids 5 and under are free as always. The Speedway Motors Cornhusker Classic, only at I-80 Speedway.
This week's Young Gun on the front stretch is 22-year-old Shay Halexa from Beatrice. Shay fell in love with dirt racing about 6 years ago when her dad, Kevin Anderson, took her to a race for the very first time. Now, Shay isn't your typical driver, starting out in karts and making their way up into the big cars. Instead, Shay got her start in a 1929 Model A with the Good Old Time Racing Association. She's won Rookie of the Year while also driving a 36 Chevy Coupe and her current car, a 31 Chevy Coupe. On top of racing, Shay loves riding horses, going hunting, dancing, and working on cars. Someday, Shay wants to go back to college to earn a degree in criminal justice or as a nurse. Thanks to the tremendous support of her mother, Paula Lovelace, and husband, Mark Halexa, you better believe you'll see the Corn Grower State Bank, Willsboro Fertilizer, DeKalb Asgrow Seed, number 70, Good Old Time Racing Association, 36 Coupe, driven by this week's Young Gun, Shay Halexa, at a dirt track near you. Thanks to I-80 Speedway for their support of the Young Guns on the front stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
This fall, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled day where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Hollywood Casino 400 Playoff Elimination Race, only at Kansas Speedway, October 21st. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Rolling into turn number 2 and decided to sit down with one of the former young guns. You're still kind of a young gun, right, Gunnar?
Not really much anymore. I'm finally 21.
You think you're old enough now?
Yeah,
You think you graduated?
Yep, I think so.
Graduated to fireball shots is what he graduated to.
Talking with Top Gun Gunnar Pike, driving the number 25 Sport Mod. You've had a rather interesting year.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Went from really bad to really good, and then back to really bad, and back to really good. It's just been such an up-down year. But
Yeah, you started off pretty strong, and then is it the changing of the seasons that kind of got you? Because we got really hot and dry for a while there, and then we got hot and wet for a while there, and now we're back to kind of cool and moist.
kinda-ish. The tracks changed a lot over the year, but our cars also changed. I mean, there was one night we wrecked it. It's I-80, I believe, and the car was just never the same. And we tried to put it back to where it was at beginning of the year, and it just never really was there. So we just worked on it and tried to make it better, but we just had to kind of deal with what we had at that time, and it ended up being one of them years where we ended up destroying a car. And then we got a different one, and this thing was a hot rod for sure.
I figured maybe it changed about the time you came up and hung out with Dan at Quaker Steak one night in the middle of the season. That had to, I don't know if you're recovered from that yet or not, are you?
I'm not sure quite yet. That was a rough one for sure.
I'm still recovering from that. Was that the night of the trucks?
Mud Summer Classic.
Yeah, the trucks at Eldora. That was a rough night. Once again, one of those lube tubes came back to get me.
Which one? The third or the fourth?
You started off the year, and you had high expectations because you ended last year really strong. Finished third in points at I-80, I believe.
This year or last year?
Last year, I think you finished
second last year.
Okay.
To Sean,
and
yeah.
you were right there. You had a chance going into championship night to steal the championship away.
Yep, we were a lot more consistent last year than we were this year. That's one thing that I'm a consistent freak, and it was just driving me nuts all year this year. And I understand you're gonna have years like that where you just kind of struggle, and it was just one of them years. But still got 4 wins out of the deal, 4 or 5, I don't know, 4 or 5.
And they've all come recently. I mean, you had a couple of wins early in the year, but then they picking up this latest Sport Mod. So go back with me a little bit. Midway through the year, I think we're into August, and you were involved in the carnage in turn 3 at Eagle, along with like 6-7 other Sport Mods, and your car was just totally destroyed. And you decided at that point, you'd been thinking about it for a while, but you decided, I'm going A-Mod racing. I'm done with the Sport Mod stuff.
Yeah, that was going to be our whole plan. And after that, we kind of I told myself, as like, Gunnar, you're just going to lay back a little bit, because at that time it was so hot in the middle of summer, and I just was wore out and bummed, and you name it, all different types of emotions. And
your back was still hurting you from last year.
Yep. After that night, it was horrible. And I took 1 week off, and I had a guy call me and goes, I got this car, and I ended up buying it. And
now, was that an A-Mod or a Sport Mod?
It is a Sport Mod, the one we're running now. And it was good right out of the box. The worst finish I think I have had in its third.
Yeah.
Other than Boone where we wrecked, but...
And so you'd planned on the entire year, this is going to be my last year in the Sport Mods. I'm going to go A-Mod racing next year. So you're kind of in this phase to where you don't want to buy a bunch of new equipment for your Sport Mod because it's going to be obsolete once the season's over with. But then you find this gem in a pile of cars, and this thing's a hot rod. And now you're kind of like, well, I think maybe I need to run it next year and see what I can do.
Yeah, it was just one of them deals where I didn't expect it to be lights out right out of the box, but it was. And we are still going A-Mod, but I think that's just what we need to do. I mean, for what we're spending on our Sport Mod stuff, and I don't know if you've ever watched a Sport Mod feature, but sometimes, man, oh man, do those things take a while and you tear some crap up.
Yeah,
so,
I've beat my head on the desk a couple of times at I-80 and Eagle.
Oh, yeah.
You're a young man. Why don't you do an Anthony Roth and just run both cars at the track like at I-80 and see if you can do a back-to-back and a double dipper and all that kind of stuff?
That's actually what I think we're going to do. It's hard not to, sell this car or just leave it sit in the shop. So that's what I told my dad. I says, I think we might just run some Sport Mod stuff at I-80 and be, that guy. But I'm just one of them guys that like racing. So anytime I get a chance to race, I'm going to race.
Yeah. And that's kind of an interesting question that has always been kind of over drivers' heads is, do you switch full-time and get rid of the old class and stick with the new one? Because there could be some bad habits you could develop while playing around with your sport mod that could ruin your modified development.
Yep, and I do know the 4-link and the 2-link sport mod stuff. It drives so much different. But I think once I get the hang of everything, I mean, I understand this A-mod deal is going to be a complete learning curve, but we plan on racing a lot next year in the mod stuff to try to get Rookie of the Year, and National Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go down to Arizona is what the talk is right now, and just try that because I just one of the guys that like racing, and anytime I get a chance to race, I'm going to go race. So
yeah. Don't blame me there. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, it's a blast.
When it's working in your favor.
Yeah, oh yeah. Then when you're getting wore out and all that stuff in the middle of summer, you're like, why am I doing this? But
it is a long season, isn't it?
It is very long. And we were counting back at our nights, and we were like right about 53 right now. And a lot of money and a lot of time and just.
Yeah, but there's 365 days in a year. That leaves you a lot of time you didn't race.
Exactly. There's more not racing than there's actually racing. But
yeah.
When you struggle, man, it makes it a long year.
And we've talked to a lot of guys, and it kind of feels like that 60 race window is where you need to be if you want to continue to develop at a regular pace. When you get into your A-mod, are you going to be able to be at that pace, or are you going to have to work your way up there over the next couple of years?
That I think we're just going to go in head first. I don't really think there's really no other way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know like IMCA's Rookie of the Year, you can run 55 nights to take your best 55 nights. So we're going to have to at least run 60 and just to do that because it's one of them deals where I didn't do it in the sport mod because when I first got the sport mod, I raced once a week. And then another week I'd run 3 nights. And you just never – and plus I struggled the first few years of my mod stuff or my sport mod stuff. And finally now I'm starting to, get the understanding of everything and – know what we got to do. I know what works for me as a driver. And that's what I've learned a lot is I have a different driving style compared to, Sean or Roth or any of those guys. What works for them will not work for me. And that was where I was struggling at the whole time.
And that's the tough thing. Now you're going into the A-mod class, and you've got nice guys like Dylan Smith and Mark Lighting and Jordan Grabowski and Mike Densberger. These guys will gladly help you, but they don't drive like you.
Yep, exactly. And that's one thing I sat back one time and just started thinking, it's like, okay, I might listen to them on certain things, but what works for them is not going to work for me. And I have honestly learned that a lot. I mean, my shock program is way different. And that's a driver feel thing there too. And we have had a lot of luck with just trying different stuff. But, you might struggle 5 or 6 nights out of the month you're racing trying to find more speed in your car. Just trying to find out what works for you, and that's one thing that's going to take a while in this mod stuff.
Talking with Gunnar Pike, driver of the number 25 Sport Mod, going to be in the modified next year. What's with the 25? Where'd that number come from?
My dad. That's what he started racing when he was 25, and when I started, I was 4 when I started racing go-karts, and it's always stuck.
And you've been racing, like you said, since you were 4 years old, running in go-karts all across and you've raced go-karts against some pretty notable people in the racing community.
Yeah, like Caden Carter and Brain Carter over in Iowa. That Caleb Johnson that runs out at Eagle, me and him, we race against each other like every weekend there for a long time, and it's crazy to watch. I mean, all these guys I grew up racing with, Devin Peterson's another one, and we just finally all moved up, and now that's what you see is these kids I used to race go-karts with. We're all, in big cars now and racing away.
Do you see any of them in late models, and you're like, man, what am I doing down here?
I have.
Is that where you want to go? You want to be a late model guy? You want to be a sprint?
A point, but them late models are so damn expensive, and my heart's always been to the mod stuff. It's just there's just something about the mods that I just can't really get rid of. I loved them as a kid, and I still do this day. I probably always will.
And you watch the sprint cars race around the area. Would you ever go sprint car racing?
No.
If the answer for the late model was I would like to, but they're too dang expensive, I think I know the answer for a sprint car. Then.
Yeah, my mom and all of them, I don't think they'd support the whole sprint car thing at all.
It's great to be a man of your own judgment, but then you got mom and girlfriend and dog that make a lot of that decision.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So you're going to be in the modified next year. Plan on sticking to I-80 and Eagle, or are you going to go race weekly somewhere else?
He's going to have to get 60 shows in.
I'm going to have to go to Columbus on Thursdays. That's a must. And probably go, I don't know if I'll run much I-80. I will be there, but I still got to go find another IMCA track on Friday. And back to Eagle. I love Eagle. There's just something about that place. I mean, it's so damn rough sometimes and all that stuff, but it's part of it. And everybody has to race on the same racetrack.
I've spent a lot of time this year at Eagle kind of wondering what it is because, the track, and let's face it, I think admittedly Roger knows that he frustrates a lot of drivers with the way that he sets up the track, with the way that he calls the races. But for some reason, guys just keep coming back.
Yep, there's just something about that place. People ask me, why are you going back? Why are you going back? It's like, I don't know, but it's just one of them tracks where I will always be at. And it's fun. And we'll go to Lexington on Sundays and when I can. I mean, I ain't going to try to put my heart and soul into, points. I did that, and that crap wears you out. So
because there's so much outside of your control.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this year, I thought we had a pretty damn good year. Other than, when we fell off. But hell, if you fall off one night, you're pretty well screwed. Especially when you have guys like Sean Harker and, Matt Andrews and Anthony Roth. They're good all the time.
They're talking about top fives every single feature.
Yep. And I think every feature we finished at I-80 this year, I know we were in top five. But we also had 4 DNFs. Those guys didn't have no DNFs. So it kind of just leaves me out to, here's 4th. So, oh well.
Did you ever go race the go-karts, like go do the turkey chase or anything like that?
Yeah, I did that. It was the first year they had it until I stopped. I actually ran it a few years ago.
Do you still run it? Would you go run it this year? Or?
No. I'm too fat for that now.
He's 21 now. He's got alcohol weight to worry about.
Who's he talking to over here? He's too fat for that. That's cute. But any other racing you're thinking about doing? I know.
We'll go to Columbus this weekend, and then I believe Hayes is the week after. We're going to go out there. Cornhusker Classic in Vegas, and that will probably be about it.
You're going out to Vegas for that?
Yeah, I finally
That's going to be dangerous, dude.
Go.
I don't know if anybody told you, but you're 21 now, and that's perfectly legal.
I figured. I was like, man, I've always wanted to go out there. But, for fuel to get out there, it turns out to be a really expensive weekend.
Yeah.
Or week, I should say. And now I figured, heck, why not give it a shot this year? And
you think racing's expensive? Just go to one of those casinos.
Oh yeah, that's what I
just go to the chicken ranch.
I appreciate you saying chicken ranch and not.
That's what the place is called.
Yeah. Okay. Never been there. I don't know.
Never been there either, but I read about it.
The chicken ranch, huh?
Don't even get started. Don't even Google it.
You better not have Anthony listening to this. He'll be wanting to go over there.
Dude, in Vegas, they've got magazines like in newspaper racks on the street corners with advertisements for the stuff, dude.
Mm-hmm. I think Anthony's already on his way over it.
I bet you he is. He's probably sitting.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm ready.
He might be in Denver already.
Follow him on Facebook, Gunnar Pike, Gunnar. I spelled it wrong for so long.
Yeah, not ER. Nope.
Not ER. I thought it was Gunnar. It's Gunnar.
Yep, Gunnar.
But
and if he's got his glasses on, and don't get him mistaken for Ari Soughton.
Yeah. Scouting. Yeah.
That's what everybody say. But
really?
No, I finally broke them things. Okay. So I no longer in the glasses. Thank God.
Well, maybe that might have been some of the problem.
That could be it.
Do you have contacts now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. But
it does kind of suck though, because that one night we won out at Eagle. There's like 2 to go. I think you were down in the infield that night. I popped a contact out going in the corner. It just popped out. I'm like, oh my God. And
I had that happen when I was driving back to my parents' house one night. But I'm just driving on the roads, and it's 55 miles an hour, and that was trouble enough. I can only imagine when you're trying to set your mark.
Yeah, and that was one of the nights I was pushed up all the way to the wall. I'm like just trying to feel around, and I looked at my last 2 lap times, like from transponder, and I was slow. And I've learned now, make sure you don't lose your contacts because
you got them crazy glued in.
You talk about a rough track. How rough was the track that it knocked your contact out?
I think it probably wasn't the track that night. I think that I have the daily lenses, and I think I forgot to pull them out the night before.
I had dailies that I wouldn't take out for weeks.
Yep, and I think they just get dry and they pop out.
Yeah, I had to get LASIK done on my eye because my eye doctor's like, you've got to do this or you're going to destroy your eyes by the way that you maintain them with your contacts.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to end up getting LASIK. Tough.
Yeah. Huh.
Now I don't have contacts or glasses. It's a tough life. All right, man. Do you have a racing page people can keep up to date with, or just follow you on your...
Yeah, Gunnar Pike Racing.
Okay.
I can't add no more friends on Facebook, so I'm at the max.
You got 3?
Yeah, 3. So I'm going to have to just have everybody follow the racing page.
All right, Gunnar Pike Racing, Gunnar.
Yep,
Gunnar.
Yep.
Pike Racing. All right, man, appreciate you coming in. Best of luck the rest of the season. We'll talk to you to get ready for 2019.
All right, thanks, guys.
In your A-Mod, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. We'll be back in turn number 3 to sit down with Joel Wilgers of the Nebraska Gambler 500. We'll be back on the front stretch.
Finding a home can be the most important decision in your life. It's the simple factors of neighborhood, garage size, the school district, and commute that get overlooked by most realtors. Those are the aspects that Jim Blazina has been focusing on since 1988. From rental properties to your forever home, the Racing Realtor will work hard to get you exactly what you're looking for, and he can help list your home for a speedy sale. Contact Jim Blazina today, 402-980-8400, or jblazina at npdodge.com.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Rolling into turn 3 on the front stretch, brought to you by Kansas Speedway. Tickets for the Hollywood Casino 400 are available now at 866-460-RACE or go to kansasspeedway.com. Your chance to see 4 drivers be eliminated at Kansas Speedway is getting oh so close, but you got to get your tickets in advance. Once again, 866-460-RACE or go to kansasspeedway.com.
Buy those Cup race tickets and you get to go and the Xfinity tickets, and your Xfinity races are free for the kids.
Yep, Xfinity and Truck Series races all year long are free for kids 12 and under. And then with the Xfinity Series on Saturday night, and I believe it's the ARCA Series on Friday night, right?
Well, the ARC Series is Friday night. The Xfinity and Cup races are both afternoon shows.
Yep, Saturday, and then Cups on Sunday afternoon. So get your tickets now, kansasspeedway.com or 866-460-RACE. Joining us on the phone now is the guy who brought you the now world-famous Gambler 500 Nebraska edition, and he has brought in page 2 of his tricky playbook of having a good old time in the Midwest, and that's Joel Wilgers joining us. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm wonderful. You guys?
Doing well, enjoying another beautiful day in the Midwest, and although it's getting a little bit cold, I think we're all kind of ready for it with the heat we had this summer.
I am more than ready for it. I'm enjoying this weather.
And what do you think? Maybe a week or two we'll be complaining about the cold?
There'll be some people complaining, not me.
I do. I enjoy the cold more, but that 1 or 2 weeks in January when it doesn't creep much above 0 is usually my turning point when I'm ready to get back into summer.
Yeah, I mean, I can put on another coat or, a pair of gloves or whatever. You get out here when it's 95 degrees out, and the law only lets me take off so much.
Exactly.
That's what I always say too, Dirk.
Joel, you got something in the works that you need to talk about with our good listeners.
We've got all kinds of stuff. We had a bunch of stuff go on this year. If we want to go over a little bit of what we had going on today, or this year.
Yeah.
June 23rd, we had our 2018 run. We had 60 cars, 230 people on that run. And we picked up about 500 pounds of trash, including some tires and a TV. They found a TV out along the road somewhere.
Anybody Anybody find a boat?
No, well, not on ours. The Oregon run they did. They had some pretty impressive numbers. We went to Oregon July 14th and 15th, took the family up there with us, and they had 1,554 cars up there this year, about 4,500 people, but they picked up 73,000 pounds of trash up there in Oregon.
That's a whole landfill.
It's 100. They had about 140 yards, and then, like you mentioned, they had a boat also. Somebody drug a boat out about 3 miles and threw it on a truck and took it to camp and hung it up on a crane for kind of like a trophy out there, you know.
Like a piñata?
Yeah. And, we had quite a time up there in Oregon. Spent 9 days in the RV, an old 94 Ford Shasta RV that we drove up there, 3,400 miles up and back, pulling the old Volvo on the dolly. Oh. And that was a lot of fun up there. But on ours, like I said, we had about 60 cars. We had a Team Braveheart, got our top team scepter this year. Team Blazer, they picked up a bunch of aluminum cans, about 25 pounds of aluminum cans off the side of the road this year. They got a $25 gift card, $25 cash from Beatrice scrap processing.
That's a lot of aluminum cans.
It was a lot of aluminum cans. It was a lot of that was total. That wasn't just one team, but that was total.
I remember reading. Go ahead.
We had a team from Colorado that came in and picked up the most trash. They had about 9 tires strapped to the top of their car, and they got our Trash Masters Award, which was a K-bar knife from Johnson Adventure Blades.
There you go.
That was about $85 knife that they ended up with. It was quite the prize there.
I saw the Volvo had some mechanical issues. Was that here or was that in Oregon?
That was actually the Sandhills Challenge. August 17th, we had a 2-day run out in the Sandhills. And, the Volvo, we were leading the way up a really washed-out road, and apparently I sent it just a little bit too hard and folded the A-arm back and put the tire underneath the fender. But, we also had a Buddy Holly road tour this year. David Timma put that on for me. They went up to that Buddy Holly crash site up in Iowa and made a little weekend run out of that. They had about 5 cars up there, I think.
Yeah, that was just pretty much all highway mile stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was more of just a road tour, highway miles, just guys having fun, you know.
And did you go participate in the Iowa Gambler?
I did make it over there for a day this year. They was quite interesting over there. That was right after Omaha had all the 9 inches of rain or something like that.
Yeah.
They had some roads that they had that were about 6-foot washouts in them, and it was incredible up there.
Jeez.
Yeah, we'd had Grant Nelson on the show and gave them a little love before they had their event, and I know I think they had a mini bike gambler over there in Iowa and got another one of those. I want to say coming up here in November they're doing one. Yeah,
I believe second weekend in November I think he's having one. Mini bike gambler. Yeah, we're trying to get one lined up. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get done this year, but I sure want to do one. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And as always, you be sure to let us know when you do get that arranged.
Yeah,
Dan will come down and do that. He's not going to go in a car, but he'll get on his little rup and he'll come down there and see what he's got left in his old body.
Yeah. We've let's see, the ones we got coming up this fall. October 19th, we've got Terror Trails out in Mason City. Tony Corbin out there, he's got his own property, and they actually have a little course set up out there where he can just run around on the property, and he welcomes mini bikes out there. So if somebody wants to go out there and run around, they're going to do that Friday night and Saturday. It'll just be like a one-day run on Saturday. But they're going to go out and do about 250 miles on Saturday there. But like you said, more than welcome to bring mini bikes up and mess around on his property there.
That's a few fuel stops with a mini bike to go 250 miles.
Yeah, at least. There'd probably be some Tylenol stop there, too. If you had to do that many miles on there.
And a hemorrhoid pillow.
Yeah, but maybe a couple pillows.
But no, then coming up November 3rd, we've got the Derelicts at Dusk. We were talking about that'll be ending at Philly Bar and Grill there in Philly, Nebraska. And Derek Roney's actually heading that up for me this year. And that's just another one-day run. Start about 2 p.m. They'll probably end up about 9 p.m. there. Well, I think they're going to run over towards Indian Caves and maybe hit that Seven Sisters Road over there. If anybody knows anything about that, it's supposed to be a haunted place over there. Ooh, yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of stuff going on there. And there's more local gamblers, too. You can go on the Gambler 500 Rallies page on Facebook, and they've got a list of events on there. We've got Illinois Gambler coming up September 29th. October 6th is Wisconsin Gambler. October 12th is Oklahoma Gambler. October 27th, they've got Southern Indiana Gambler. And then put a little plug in for ours next year, June 22nd, 23rd. We're going to do our run, the 2-day run there next year.
Any idea which direction you're heading this year? You're going to head back down and do a halfway in Kansas, or maybe head up north and try and get to South Dakota?
Yeah, we're not going to. I don't think we're going to make it into South Dakota. I'm working on trying to set up a camping area up near Columbus.
Okay.
And probably just run both days out of there, do a double loop and stay there in Columbus. A lot of guys seem to enjoy that. They didn't have to pull up camp to move to the next night. They just come back to the same place.
That sounds like kind of a good idea, actually. I can see why people would like that.
Yeah. If we can get centered out of Columbus up there, that'll get us, up towards whatever that river is, the Niobrara River up there to the north, and give us plenty of area to cover up there.
Beautiful country up there. A lot of pretty driving around.
It is.
Well, how can people get a hold of you to get more information on these events you were talking about? Derelict at Dusk.
Derelicts at Dusk. You can go on our Facebook page at SE Nebraska Gambler, or you can just search Gambler 500 on Facebook. They'll pop up. Look at events there, and like I said, November 3rd, the Derelicts at Dusk run should come up there if you look at the events.
And I know the Gambler I did, some of these derelicts were still at dawn too. So we kind of decided to do that night or evening run just because a lot of guys run off-road lights on their vehicles, but never get a chance to use them. So we can do a little evening run. That's puts a little bit of use to them, and a lot of guys kind of enjoy that nighttime stuff too.
Yeah, I can imagine that they do. There's a little activity they enjoy at the nighttime.
Yeah, yes.
SENebraskagambler.com or Gambler500 Nebraska. For more information, like their Facebook page, follow their website, so that way you can get more information on everything that's going on with Joel and the guys over at the Nebraska Gambler. Joel, always do appreciate your time, buddy. If you got anything else we need to cover?
I don't think so. We got a few sponsors if we want to go over those real quick.
Absolutely.
Our local sponsors, Carriage, GMC, and Beatrice, they've done a lot of stuff for us. R&B Arms, they're kind of tied in with that. Johnson Adventure Blades, he's the one that gave out the knife for the most aluminum cans the most trash picked up this year at our run. Canyon Coolers, Coleman Power Sports, Sonic and Beatrice, Ewell's Sporting Goods, they did our shirts this year. Again, he does a great job there at Ewell's and Beatrice. Oak Haven Acres, they were gracious enough to let us stay at their place this year, and it worked out great. And of course, the national sponsors, we got Interco Tires, J.C. Whitney, Auto Parts Warehouse, 6 Hour. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, you guys also have a Gamblers for Sale section on Facebook. So if anybody's actually thinking about doing this and maybe needs a car to get started on something, you can go check that out at that Gamblers for Sale. And you got, the $400 or $500, $600 type cars that are going to take a little elbow grease, but will probably get you through the run. And like I said, having done one with a furnished car, it was a blast. I'm going to try and get back to do one here in the next year or two.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe you'd come down for our fall run here.
I got to check the schedule and see where I'm at. But
that Gambler for Sale Midwest is a Facebook page that we're running now for the for sale site. Not a whole lot of activity on there, but we're getting new members about every day, and there's more and more stuff showing up there. And like you said, usually about $400 or $500 cars, and something you might be able to throw together and make it through, or gamble with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know a lot of the area racers and stuff, this would be something, guys, if you haven't done it, it's a blast to do. And now that they've got stuff coming up in November type deal, you don't have to worry about missing out, any points at the racetrack. You can go have a good time.
That's right. And it's only a one-day run. There's a lot of guys can commit to that better than a whole weekend, and it's just a Saturday afternoon. You're probably going to mess around and blow money on something else anyway.
There you go.
Joel, buddy, I always do appreciate your time. Come back on when you got more to talk to us about. I always do love having you on.
All right, thanks, guys.
So again, that was Joel Wilgers of the Gambler 500 for Nebraska. You can find him at SENebraskagambler.com or Gambler 500 Nebraska. That'll get you all the information you need to know.
Definitely something different. Yep. And like I said, but it's a lot of fun. And just one rule of don't be a dick.
It'd be a great thing for like father and son for a little bonding time.
Oh, a whole family deal.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to bring the wife along.
Oh, yeah, she's got to yell at the kids.
That's a good point. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 4. Maybe we'll yell at the kids in turn 4. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll be back on the front stretch.
This fall, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled day where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Hollywood Casino 400 Playoff Elimination Race. Only at Kansas Speedway, October 21st. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
The 2018 season at I-80 Speedway is about to come to an end, but not before one final weekend of racing. The Speedway Motors Cornhusker Classic on October 12th and 13th features the Midwest's best mods, sport mods, stock cars, bragging rights, late models, hobby stocks, and compacts. Adult tickets start at $10 on Friday and $15 on Saturday. Kids 6 to 12 get in for $5 both days, and kids 5 and under are free as always. The Speedway Motors Cornhusker Classic, only at I-80 Speedway.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around the professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Just about ready to wrap this baby up. Rolling into turn number 4, brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. It's the home of the NASCAR Charlotte Roval race today on NBC at noon with green flag waving at 1 o'clock. It's also the home to MAV TV, where you can watch all dirt late model and dirt track racing. And then he'll also, every once in a while, he'll throw on one of those subscriptions for Dirt on Dirt, and we'll watch the Chili Bowl or one of the Nationals, the Dirt in the Dome. We'll watch that race down there. So if you want to catch any dirt track racing, most NASCAR, football games, baseball games, any kinds of sports are on the big screens at Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs. Hands down, my favorite wing joint in town. And now they have Oktoberfest, and so I've already partaken in a couple of Oktoberfest lube tubes, which are a little bit more expensive than the domestics, but well worth it. Get over to Quaker Steak and Lube today for all of the NASCAR action. Again, it's on NBC at noon, and the green flag set to wave at 1 o'clock. There's a couple of silly season changes that have happened since we talked to you guys last Sunday morning, so I wanted to cover them as far as we know to Tuesday afternoon, because there's going to be a lot more that's going to happen when we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and later on in the week.
And the reason it's called silly season, because when you sit and you read some of this stuff, it will make you laugh.
Mm-hmm. It'll make you goofy. Absolutely.
Because some of it absolutely makes no sense, like the one I was reading today, where everybody predicted several years ago that when another seat opened up at RCR that you'd see Ty Dillon move over. Mm-hmm. Well, Ty Dillon is at least honoring his contract till the end with the Geico car over at Germain, and is going to hang out there in the 13 for another year. So my question is, RCR, whoever they sign, there's several drivers being talked about. We'll get into that in a minute. But if they give somebody a one-year contract, you can pretty much put it in the bank that Ty Dillon will be taking that 31 seat next year. Now, if they sign somebody to 3 years, then, all bets are off. It's not going to happen that way. But if it does work out to just they sign somebody with a one-year contract.
Ty Dillon is signed through Germain Racing through 2020. So it would be a 2-year deal if they were to sign somebody.
Well, then they've given him an extension because he's run 2 of his years, and his original contract was for 3 years. So if they gave him an extension somewhere in that first 2 years.
I thought it was a 5-year deal. Because that was, you and I were talking about that it was really weird that he would, A, sign a 5-year deal, and B, sign a 5-year deal with somebody other than his grandpa. And because that's a long time.
2020 would be a 5-year deal. You are correct. But I was thinking he was on a 4-year deal and was out next year. So he's got 2 more years to honor his contract, and he didn't say anything about 2020. He just said he was going to be with Germain for next year. And boy, it would really be odd if RCR signed somebody for just 2 years. That would be strange.
Yeah. We've seen weird things happen like that before, though. Well, and it sounds like
a lot of 1-year deals and a lot of 3-year deals, but a 2-year deal is really weird.
Well, it's almost as weird as a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
And so it's as soon as we say it won't happen, It's going to happen.
And it could very well be that they sign a one-year deal and then turn around and 6 weeks into the season, re-sign him with the extension or whatever.
Because I think they signed Stewart Haas Racing did that with Newman for 2 or 3 years. They just signed one-year extensions until finally he moved on to RCR, and now he's moving on to Roush Fenway. So
yeah, the performance wasn't there. So
sounds like Daniel Hemrick is going to be moving up to the 31 at RCR.
And he's already with RCR, so that's a natural progression.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talked about this last weekend, that RCR and Stewart Haas Racing were the ones that were really going after Daniel Suarez to fill in their empty rides. And although Kurt Busch still hasn't said anything, Gene Haas has openly said that he's pretty sure Kurt has signed a deal with another team and that 41 ride is open, and they are actively looking for other drivers. We know that RCR and Stewart Haas Racing have been talking with Daniel Suarez, and I think the signing, the imminent announcement that Daniel Hemrick is going to be signed to RCR for the 31 car now means that Suarez is more likely to go to the 41 at Stewart Haas Racing.
Yeah, I mean, all the original scuttle was that he was going to go over to the 95 car because they made an announcement a while back that they were switching to Toyota. And now that Furniture Row's announced they won't be around, everybody's, knows the 95 is going to Toyota and is going to be the new Joe Gibbs Satellite. But if I was getting kicked out of my ride at Joe Gibbs, the last place I would want to go would be Joe Gibbs Satellite team. Mm-hmm. So I do not see Suarez going to the 95 right now unless the money's just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think he would be a pretty good fit over at Stewart Haas. He's a young enough driver, and I think his career could be well resurrected, just like Joey Logano when he left Joe Gibbs, and his career kind of took off over at Penske.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going to happen here? Penske put on a third car this year. Maybe Penske's going to dump up a fourth car. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
I think that I think Suarez is headed over to Stewart Haas Racing, and I think that he would be good over there. It's a little bit difficult because he doesn't seem like an exact fit. Like Eric Almirola really fits well over there with those guys. The communication level, Tony Stewart talked about it early in the year at Daytona about how the communication level between him and the team has just been amazing, and we're seeing that in a difference where he's peeking into the top 10 more often. He's contending for wins.
Well, what they were comparing him to, though, was the communication with Danica.
I was trying not to go there, but yeah.
I mean, that was exactly it, and everybody says, oh, he's got all this different. And no, he don't. He don't have any different equipment. Dana was getting the top of There's very few cars on these team concepts. When there's 4 cars there, everything's top notch.
Yeah.
You don't have an A car, a B car, a C car, and a D car.
Yeah.
And they're all sharing their information back and forth. Mm-hmm. And as we've talked about several times, the Chevys don't want to do that from one Chevy camp to the other. Hendrick doesn't want to talk to RCR, et cetera, et cetera.
The limitation where this is just like what Gunnar Pike was talking about. It's that what works for Kevin Harvick may not necessarily work for Eric Almirola. And they have to take what is working for Kevin Harvick, talk to him about how he's making it work, where he's breaking into the corner, where he's doing all this different stuff, and then apply that to Eric and then get him to make adjustments to it. It's a successful baseline, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be successful in your car.
Well, and Kevin's a good enough driver that he can change on the fly. You saw that at Richmond last week. I mean, he was searching all over, and you'd see him, he'd cut the lead down. He'd have 0.2 faster one lap, and he might do that 2 or 3 laps, and then that one little spot would go away on the track, so he'd move somewhere, and he might lose some ground and then come back. A lot of other guys just can't do that. They don't have the mental capacity to. It's not saying anything about them. They're just not as good a driver. That's why Harvick wins so many races and is up front so many times.
Him, along with somebody like Larson, they're so good at searching. They'll be all over the track. Now, Larson's known for being a high-side hustler, but that kid will be all over the track trying to find some grip somewhere because he comes from the dirt track world. He understands that when you find something, it may only be there for a couple of laps. So even though you found it, you got to kind of start poking around and seeing if you can get a little bit faster.
Well, the last couple of years at Knoxville, 2 years ago, he was high-side hustling all day long, and ran second. This past year, he was on the bottom all day because he just couldn't make the car work anywhere else, and he really wasn't making it work on the bottom. He was struggling, and that's where he ended up.
Getting back to a little bit of the NASCAR silly season news, A.J. Allmendinger, it was announced on Tuesday afternoon that he would not be returning to JTG Doherty Racing for 2018 or 2019, and a replacement has not been announced yet.
But Hemrick was the one that was being mentioned for that spot.
Huh.
He was. It came out last week after the Richmond race that he was supposed to be having a powwow with the JGR people and the people from Levine from the 95 car. And again,
he's a hot commodity.
Yeah, but I don't see him leaving RCR. He's already in-house there, and he's having decent success, and he seems to get along. He'd be able to keep his crew chief, which is Danny Stockman, currently. Talked to Danny when we were over at Iowa about that. And so he'd go, I think him and Daniel would stay together with RCR and go to the 31 car.
Going down to the Xfinity Series, Noah Gragson, who has been having pretty good success in the Truck Series, has been announced that he will join Junior Motorsports in 2019, taking over for Elliott Sadler in the 1 car as Elliott decides to retire from full-time competition.
And the teammates at Junior Motorsports are obviously going into the season with eyes wide open because they know Noah will race them harder than he races anybody else, and he will wreck them for the win if he has to.
Yep. That's all the news we have as of Tuesday afternoon.
No, I got one more.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
And did you miss it?
I don't know.
Coughlin is out at
Yeah, you posted
GSL.
that. GMS.
GMS,
Yep.
And that's
Greg
and
Coughlin, right? Cody Coughlin.
Cody
Coughlin.
And that's a real strange one because he's got a checkbook. Family's, the big sponsor with Jegs on that. That's one of the Coughlins from the Jegs Coughlin people, the mail order house.
They said the inability to acquire enough sponsorship to continue through the rest of the year was one of the driving reasons for him leaving that ride.
Well, it means, dad or grandpa or whoever, how he's related in there. I'm really not sure. But, evidently was agreed to do X amount of races, and with a half a dozen races left, the money wasn't there. So
that's too bad.
But in all honesty, his finishes haven't been there either, when I think everybody else in that stable has won a race this year.
Yeah, the GMS is definitely a hot shoe in the Truck Series and making their way up into the Upper Series. And I think within the next 4 or 5 years, we'll see them up in the Cup Series because they've been the team that has been contended the most to be joining the Cup Series over the last 2 years.
Well, they were one of the teams that had put in some bids to try and get the BK Racing stock. Yeah. I do know that, but did not get that. So... because if they'd have got that, they'd have had, a bunch of cars and a bunch of stuff to go ahead and move. But they didn't get it.
We'll have to talk to our buddy over there at Tommy Ackerman at GMS Racing and see if we can get some skinny on who's going to be in that truck for next year. Because I'm sure he'll tell us.
Well, if there's going to be anybody in that truck for next year.
Yeah, they may move their attention up to the Xfinity Series and only run 1 or 2 trucks.
Yeah, and maybe run 2 or 3 Xfinity cars, or maybe dump the trucks all together and put together 3 or 4 Xfinity cars.
If you're in the Pick'ems contest, get your picks in before noon today. Green flag set to wave at 1 o'clock. Don't wait on this because it may hurt you if you're in the season-long contest. It will hurt you if you're in the season-long contest, and it will definitely hurt you if you don't get your pick in the 5-week contest.
Where are we at? We've got like 13 points in the 5-week between 1st and 10th?
Yeah, it's tight. It's incredibly tight. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you to Gunnar Pike and Joel Wilgers for joining us. If you missed any part of today's show, we'll have it posted on YouTube at about 10 a.m. this morning, and we'll share it on our Front Stretch Facebook page. If you haven't gotten your hats yet, you can still message us individually, Dirk or myself, Dan, and we will be glad to meet up with you at a racetrack and get you one. And since you're buying a hat from us, we'll throw in a couple of free koozies.
That'll work.
We'll do it again next weekend as we'll get you a full race recap from Charlotte. We'll sit down with Zach Ralston, ARCA Series driver that's going to be down at Kansas Speedway in a couple of weeks for the ARCA race on Friday night during the Cup Series and Xfinity Series weekend. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. This has been The Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.